What is going on, y'all? We're back discussing more things that are happening politically and socially. And today, the discussion is going to be focusing on the state of Texas and how in Texas they are introducing a state level legislative bill that would literally make identifying or being transgender against the law. Would essentially make it illegal to exist as a transgender person in the state of Texas. So, Texas bill would make identifying as a transgender a felony, punishable by jail. And it's so crazy because I was literally just in Texas. Well, not just in Texas, but last year at the end of September, mid to the end of September, I was in Texas for one of my cousin's weddings. And it was a beautiful experience. Got to catch up with family, friends, see my cousin, nice weather, eat good food. It was like a mini vacation slash family reunion. Um, and yet, will I be able to return to the state in the coming months or coming years? Probably not, because it would probably be a felony for me to exist in that state. So who knows? The bill will while unlikely to pass, highlights the increasing extremism of legislation targeting trans people, especially in Texas in recent years. This is off of NBC News. Information will be in the description box below, as always. A Texas state bill could charge transgender people with gender identity fraud, making it illegal to identify as trans on official documents and potentially leading to jail time. Now, mind you, there's always this back and forth conversation, especially pertaining trans women, trans feminine people, but trans men, trans masculine folks, anybody that falls under the transgender umbrella faces this issue. But arguably, a lot of times when we hear it being brought up in the media, it's targeting trans women. And the issue is around, well, you tricked the man who's typically a cisgendered heterosexual man. And the assumption is trans women or trans people are tricking cishet men uh, by not disclosing their transgender identity or disclosing the fact that they are trans. And oftentimes that is a lie. It boils down to the cishet man being ashamed that he's attracted to a trans woman or a trans man or a trans person. A lot of times people are very open and upfront about being trans, being intersex. For one, it's about safety. Like, many trans people already know that the likelihood of them being physically abused, assaulted, sexually abused, assaulted is rather high even before this current administration. So a lot of trans folks are very much upfront about that. And yet, every time, um, unfortunately, a trans woman in particular is murdered or killed, especially black and brown trans women or black and brown trans feminine people, um, they are essentially blamed for their own murder or their own death because then the cishet man gets to claim he didn't know, he was tricked, and therefore it was okay for him to murder somebody. Meanwhile, if that could be used for other situations like cis men lying about their sexualities, lying about wanting relationships, if we could also physically assault them and abuse them for lying and misleading, a lot of you cis males would be dead. Okay, because let's be real here. Okay, is it if that's the case, it should also be a felony to lie to cis women about being straight when you're not. Hmm. Yeah. Okay. It should. Anyways, the bill was filed last week by Republican State Rep Tom Oliverson, would make it a state jail felony if a person knowingly makes a false or misleading verbal or written statement by identifying their sex assigned at birth incorrectly to a governmental entity or their employer. State jail felonies in Texas are punishable by up to 2 years in jail and a fine of up to $10,000. Again, why does your employer need to know about your sex assigned at birth? And what does that have to do with you doing your job? And again, y'all making all of these laws for a small minority of the population, 1.6% of the population that we currently know of identifies as transgender. And yet, we're y'all won't even focus on the people that are sexually assaulting the women and the kids. Y'all won't even persecute them. Anyways, Oliverson, Oliverson did not immediately return a request for comment. So far, the bill has no other co-sponsors, making it unlikely to pass, according to Cron, a sister website of the Houston Chronicle. However, the bill is among the first of its kind nationally and is an example of how legislation targeting trans people has become more clear in its extent and more extreme in recent years, particularly in Texas. And again, a lot of trans people and intersex people have been sounding the alarm for years. Like, we've been telling people for years about what we were facing, how we were being treated. Again, we're basically in the stages of genocide against transgender people, and everyone's just like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Oh, voting doesn't matter. Oh, it's just another election. Oh, you guys are fear mongering. And yet, this is literally in our face. Are we fear mongering when there's actual elected officials writing up legislation to make it illegal to identify as a trans person? Uh, Making it a felony to be a trans person? I guess we're just making it up. Okay. And again, last month, Texas State Rep Brent Money, a Republican, filed a bill that would make it illegal for healthcare providers to treat any patient, including adults, with puberty suppressing medication, hormone therapy, or surgeries if the purpose of the treatment is to affirm the patient's gender identity. Which is hilarious because this also harms cisgendered people, biological. Again, are trans folks not biological people? Are intersex people also not biological people? But okay, this would also harm cisgendered people because, hate to break it to you, but if you are a cis woman and you go through menopause and you now need estrogen and hormone therapy, under that bill, you wouldn't be able to do that because that's affirming your gender. If you are a cis man and you need Viagra, or you had testicular cancer and now you need testosterone, or you're just a cis man with low testosterone levels, guess what? You wouldn't be able to get that option either because that's affirming your gender. Again, a lot of these transphobic people are literally stupid and ignorant because they literally are making laws thinking that they're attacking 1.6% of the general population and not realizing that you're throwing cisgendered people into the same pool. You're going to harm people that you're supposedly trying to protect. Money's bill is a replica of a law enacted in 2023 that prohibits such treatments for minors. The text of the new bill shows the word child struck out and replaced with person to apply to adults. And again, you're literally telling adults what we can and what we cannot do with our own bodies. And this is why we kept saying these are not only attacks against trans folks, intersex folks, but these are attacks against women, men, people, regardless of their gender, regardless of their sexuality. They don't want you to have bodily autonomy, which is another reason why you see the attacks against women um, when it comes to Roe versus Wade, abortion rights, reproductive health care, access to reproductive health care. They don't want you to have bodily autonomy. How dare you make a decision for yourself, right? The bill would also prohibit medical institutions from receiving public funds if they provide any such treatments. Again, you're denying health care to people because they're trans or because they need gender affirming health care. Uh, Money did not immediately return a request for comment after filing the bill. He said on X, formerly known as Twitter, that the measure is intended to expand the law restricting care for minors. Yet you struck out child and put person to apply to adults. So you're also denying adults. A person could be a child, could be an adult, could be a teenager. Doesn't really matter what the age is, it's a person. And this is a quote. I want to make it clear that my heart goes out to those struggling with gender dysphoria, he said, referring to the medical term for the severe emotional distress caused by the misalignment between one's gender and birth sex. Quote, these individuals deserve compassion, support, and real solutions to address their pain, not irreversible procedures that leave them scarred for life. This legislation isn't about judgment, it's about accountability. Okay, you literally are contradicting yourself throughout your quote. If we deserve compassion and support and real solutions, which gender affirming care provides, then why are you making a bill to take away that compassion, support, and real solutions? You're trying to make it a felony for people to exist as trans in Texas. You're taking away health care from people, cis and trans, and intersex. And then also irreversible. A lot of us know that the changes we're making are going to be irreversible, and guess what? Don't have a problem with that. You know what also provided irreversible damage? Being born intersex and being forced to live as a female. That was also irreversible damage. But of course, you don't care about that because you want everyone to be cisgendered. And it's funny how when you're intersex, nobody cares about the fact that they're forcing you to do gender affirming, oh, well, gender hormones, hormone therapy. They don't care about the fact that they're having procedures on you to correct dysformities. That's legal. Again, the hypocrisy and the contradicting and the double standards is just straight up crazy and alarming to witness. He added the bill targets doctors and medical profiteers who exploit vulnerable people, pushing costly surgeries and lifetime pharmaceuticals for financial gain rather than offering genuine care. It is genuine care. Are there doctors or medical providers who exploit vulnerable people? Yes. Are there doctors who push costly surgeries? Yes. And do people end up on a lifetime of pharmaceuticals for financial gain? Uh, that does happen. But guess what? You could say the same thing about a man on Viagra. I mean, a lot of you are going to have to take that for the rest of your lives because you have erectile dysfunction. Is that also not costly pharmaceuticals being pushed for financial gain? Instead of folks, recognizing that everything shouldn't be revolving around sex, and a lot of times it's your lifestyle that's causing you to have these issues. Eating garbage, drinking garbage, being on all kinds of pharmaceuticals and other drugs that are causing you to have a limp. Okay, I'm just saying, I'm just saying, if that's the case, then every single cancer medication is also about pharmaceuticals for financial gain. Anybody that's on diabetes, I mean, look at Ozempic, Wegovy, all of these different medications that are clearly no longer about helping people who actually have diabetes, but is more so targeted to folks who have body dysmorphia and body shaming and fat phobia. Now everyone has to take these shots subcutaneously in their stomachs so they can lose weight. Is that also not a lifetime of pharmaceuticals for financial gain rather than offering genuine care? Again, I could go on and on about this. Okay. However, most, if not all, major medical associations in the US, including the American Medical Association, the American Academy of Pediatrics, and the American Psychological Association, support transition related care for both minors and adults and oppose restrictions on it. It's really odd how non medical people are making policies and laws about healthcare and medicine when you're not, you're a politician. You're not a doctor. You're not a psychologist. You're not a pediatric. You're a politician. Multiple studies have found that access to transition related care, including surgeries for adults, improve mental health outcomes. Last year, the National Center for Transgender Equality, which is now called Advocates for Trans Equality, released the largest nationwide survey of the trans community with more than 90,000 respondents and found that 94% of those 90,000 reported that they were at least a little more satisfied with their lives. Texas has provided a blueprint over the last decade for states that have sought to restrict trans rights, becoming in 2017 one of the first states alongside North Carolina to consider a bathroom bill, which would have barred trans people from using the restrooms that align with their gender identity. Again, I don't think you want to see me in the women's bathroom. But again, the bill didn't pass, but the state has enacted other measures targeting trans people. In March 2022, after failing to pass a bill restricting transition related care for minors, the state's attorney general issued a legal opinion that resulted in the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services opening child abuse investigations into parents who were suspected of having provided such care to their minor children. Now you're trying to tell parents how to raise their kids, but yet you're not trying to make sure that parents have shelter. You're not trying to make sure parents have a decent living and income so they can provide for their kids. You're not trying to make sure parents have good quality food so they can make sure their children are getting healthy nutrition. Things that actually matter, you know, you don't seem to care about. You're not trying to make sure that people have quality health care. You're not trying to make sure that there's not lead and other poisons in their water. You're not trying to make sure kids have quality schools where they don't have to worry about getting shot to death at. But you're trying to tell parents about how to care for their kids. Okay. Again, the hypocrisies and the double standards are alarming. The state went on to pass a transition related care restriction, and it also has enacted a measure barring trans student athletes from playing on school sports, teams that align with their gender identities, among other. Additionally, the state recently announced that an executive order signed by President Donald Trump bars it from allowing, my bad, from allowing trans people to update the gender marker on their Texas birth certificates, state IDs, and driver license, even though it's at the federal level for Social Security. So, like your SSI, like your Social Security card information, and like your US passport information. And mind you, that has since been rescinded. Like there's judges U.S. district judges blocking these very much transphobic laws and legislation and executive orders. So far this year, Texas lawmakers have introduced nearly 170 bills targeting LGBTQ plus people, according to Equality Texas, a state LGBTQ plus advocacy group. Now remember, intersex, trans folks, people who participate in drag have been sounding the alarms for years of what was potentially likely going to happen, what was going to come. And we had a lot of cis LGB folks who could care less and didn't think it bothered them because I'm not trans, I'm not intersex. Who cares? I don't participate in drag. Who cares? And now you have a state in Texas that has already introduced nearly 170 bills targeting the entire LGBTQIA plus community in the state of Texas. It's March 11th. We're not even finished with the first quarter of the year, and there's already 170 state bills targeting the LGBTQIA plus community in Texas. These include a new bathroom bill, which is supported, unfortunately, by the majority of the Texas House of Representatives, your state representatives. So, more information is in the description box below. Hopefully, this bill at the state level in Texas will not pass or be passed. And hopefully, the other 170 and probably counting, probably more being added every day of anti-LGBTQ plus legislation in the state of Texas doesn't succeed and isn't passed either. But yeah, every day we get to wake up as intersex and trans people and LGBTQ plus people and learn that you just lost that right. You just lost that freedom. You can't go to the bathroom. You can't play sports. You can't get health care. You can't get a job. You can't update legal documents. You might be a felon in this particular state if you go there. I mean, every day, every day. And this is why I keep saying it. Like, if you're not an ally, an accomplice in fighting against transphobia, fighting against biphobia, fighting against homophobia, fighting against misogyny, fighting against racism, fighting against sexism, the list goes on and on, then, you're a part of the problem. And honestly, in my opinion, you're on the wrong side of history. And we will, well, we hopefully later down the road, future generations will look back on this and see how crazy and bizarre this was. Because literally, come June of this year, 10 years ago, we were celebrating marriage equality. And a lot of us thought that we were going to be on a trajectory to go up, 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 and keep pushing forward and keep progressing. And we have literally seen over the past years a steep decline in women's rights, LGBTQ plus rights, transgender intersex rights. Again, we're going backwards. We're degressing, not progressing, right? Again, information is in the description box below. To all of my transgender intersex people out there, know that you are loved, that you are valued, and that you matter. Make sure you are doing what you need to do to take care of you. Get some self care in, go for a walk, take a break from social media, eat some of your favorite food, listen to some of your favorite songs. Make sure you are self caring. Because I know how it is. Every day we are facing hatred. And it's insane that, merely existing and trying to live just like all of the other people on the planet is an issue. It's insane.